Welcome to the Inspired Riding Podcast. I'm your host, Beth Lauren Parrish. As a certified riding instructor, remote coach, and rapid transformational therapy practitioner, a powerful form of hypnotherapy, I'm here to remind you to slow down, trust your intuition, and really deeply listen to your horse. And this will make for the best co-creative dances possible, whether you're on the ground or connecting on their backs. Thank you so much for being here, and here we go. Hello there, Inspired Riders. Today, I'm so excited to bring back Crystal Forsell. Crystal Forsell has been training horses and riders in dressage for over 15 years. She's originally from California, where she ran a full lesson and training program. She now resides in Austin, Texas, and offers services such as freelance instructor and clinician. Crystal is a USDF Bronze and Silver medalist, as well as a USDF L program graduate. She's also the creator of the Dressage to Go mobile app, offering audio lessons to help you develop the skills and creativity to ride in harmony and with compassion. We're going to talk more about her app and how it builds confidence for riders. Here we go. Welcome, Crystal. Thank you so much for being here again.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited.
Yay! All right, so we're going to talk about rider confidence and your amazing Dressage to Go app. So why don't we start with you telling us why you developed it?
So two things happened. I'm originally from California in the Bay Area, and in that small area, it's very population dense, and which means that there's not a lot of land, which means that pretty much mostly everybody has to board their horse. So they're all boarding their horse in usually a training environment, their arenas and things like that. So that's kind of what I was used to. And so you wouldn't really have much of a need for the app there. When I moved to Texas, I kind of saw like this whole other world of people that were boarding at home, or boarding barns that didn't have trainers, and people that live maybe in more rural areas where there just isn't as much access available. And I'm like, oh, these people need help, and they really want to do the thing and they want to improve with their horses, but the help just isn't as readily available. So that was one huge part. And then of course this was right around 2020. So at the same time, people going through lockdown, there was a huge shift right there too. So even the people that had access suddenly no longer had access. So that was the huge motivator behind it, was to fill that gap for people.
That's fantastic. And I noticed the same thing. I moved from, New York and then California and then Texas. Yeah, and there were so many people all around Texas that, had their horses at home and needed that help. So I'm really glad you created this. So tell us a little bit more about the features.
So we have over 50 lessons. They are, and growing. I'm always adding more lessons. Every other week we get a fresh lesson in. And the lessons come about organically. So they're either coming about something that I've been working on with my horse or my clients, or things that sometimes people reach out to me and say, I really need help with this, so I'll make a lesson for that. So it's all very real. They're separated by categories and also by level. We are going through about second level right now, if you're following dressage. So I start at kind of the very basics of not knowing any dressage at all, and through second level. But we really focus on that transition between not knowing any dressage at all and getting through kind of training in first level, because I feel like that is people need the most help there. So we can be the most helpful in that area.
I love it.
Yeah.
And so they listen to it while they're riding, correct?
Exactly. Yeah. So you'll pick your lesson. They're also divided by categories. So if you want to work on straightness, you go to the straightness section and you can pick a lesson there. So yeah, you just pick your lesson, pop your earbuds in, get on and do your lesson. And there's a lot of flexibility. Like we're talking about confidence today. If you're going through a lesson in the app and you feel like, canter just not having the canter today for whatever reason, that you have to listen to your intuition and listen to yourself. You're not put in a spot. You're not put in a spot in front of other people. You're just doing your own thing, and you can go, yeah, I'll skip that. Or you go, this is not the right lesson. Just go back to the app and pick a different one, without having the pressure of the outside influence there.
That's a beautiful point. I remember being in a clinic with an Olympic trainer, and he was asking me to canter on a horse that I felt like was literally going to explode. And I had to tell him no. And it was so embarrassing because I was in my early 20s, and he just stared at me like not knowing what to say.
Right.
But
Yeah.
we came to find out the horse had really severe ulcers. So there was a reason why he wanted to explode. And my intuition was correct. So I look back on it now and I give myself grace, and I realize, it's so important to speak up. But yeah, it's such a beautiful thing to be able to, tune in to say, okay, I think this lesson will work for me. And I love it. You can just say, well, maybe not. I'll switch to another one. It's so great to have that variety and that flexibility without, having those extra eyes on you, giving you so much pressure,
Exactly. Yeah, you can really kind of help train yourself.
Yeah. And that builds confidence in itself. So
Yes, it does.
Cool. So what has helped you build confidence in yourself with riding or in life?
Yeah, so in the riding, when we're younger and we take a fall or whatever, it's not as big of a deal. The older we get, it's a bigger deal. We become mothers, it's a bigger deal. And so I give myself more grace these days. I don't like falling so much anymore, and I have small people that depend on me to be able to take care of them. So I'm probably more careful than I was before. Not that I was ever crazy. I was never that rider. And so in the way that I train, I always say I train my horses so I don't have to be brave. And that means a couple different things, which is, one, they have to have a foundation. And so you hear these words like foundation and basics tossed around a lot, and you kind of wonder, well, what the heck what does foundation mean? And what does basics mean? And so I kind of had to come up with my own definition. And so for me, foundation is the horse's ability to thrive in a human world. Because they do just fine horsing around, right?
Yes.
They are built very well to horse around and survive. Eat, be with your friends, stay alive. They're good at that. And then when we get a hold of them and say, well, now I'm going to tie you up, I'm going to put you in a stall, I'm going to put you in a trailer, I'm going to put a saddle on you, I'm going to ride you, and do all these things, you really have to give them the foundation so that they can do that comfortably and happily. And so that's foundation for me. So really making sure that they have that foundation. Basics is then you're riding, go, stop, turn, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Beautiful.
So that gives me confidence knowing that the horse is prepared to do the job.
I love it. So what are some of the key elements you believe help riders to feel confident for riding?
Yeah, that part there about knowing that the horse has the foundation, and if it doesn't, we go back and fix the little holes, and training in a way that we don't have to be brave because the horse is prepared. But not only are they prepared, that we give ourselves the grace, which goes along with what you teach and talk about all the time, giving ourselves the grace to change the plan, to say it's not a day for whatever we were going to do, canter, or I use that as an example because that typically is a stopping point for people, or maybe we don't even ride today. Maybe we just work in hand today, because there's no reason why we need to speed along. And that's where we see accidents happen, is when people go too fast. But what's the worst we can happen by staying on the ground today? Nothing. What's the worst that can happen if we get on when we're not prepared and the horse isn't ready? A lot worse.
Yes.
We won't go there.
Yeah, so true. I'm so glad you encourage your students to take a step back if needed. It's so important.
Yeah, and I think that's come with more experience and age, and also knowing my audience, knowing my clients, that I'd rather keep them comfortable and safe than be the one that goes, get over it, just canter the horse. Like nobody gains anything from that.
No, no. Yeah, and that really does come from age, because when I was a young trainer, I'm like, oh, you're fine, just keep going.
Yeah, right? Yeah, we've all, well, not all of us, but some of us have been lucky enough to come at it as adults with kind of this newer place, but a lot of us have ridden through those experiences, and that's how we know now.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just so grateful that we can continue to evolve and shape how we approach our students, and I know they appreciate that. And it just feels so much better, and everyone feels safer and more seen and heard. And that's really what's important, especially in such an intimate setting of teaching someone how to ride safely on their horses. So
Right. I think you bring up such a good point about being seen and heard, the rider being seen and heard, the horse feeling seen and heard, and you can't cherry pick that. You really have to do it all.
Yeah, and there's that constant checking in. How are you feeling? How's your horse feeling? And that should just be a norm for every lesson. Not just do it because I said it, So it's an interesting shift. Yeah.
It should. And it creates the environment, too, where your client can be honest with you.
Yes.
I want to know, if it's not feeling right, then we're going to pivot and redirect. I can't pivot and redirect if you're just kind of smile and nod and going through the motions and doing it. I will often stop and ask, how's the feeling? And when I say how's the feeling, that could encompass anything from how's the feeling in the contact to, how are you feeling sitting on the horse right now, depending upon what's going on.
Yeah, and I think actually one of the most valuable things I started doing with one of my clients, I asked her, what are you thinking about exactly when you're cantering? And she said to me, I'm pitching forward, I might fall off. I'm like, okay, those thoughts are not helping. We need to switch that right now. So I said, let's come up with a mantra. We're going to think, sit back, breathe, go with the movement. Sit back, breathe, go with the movement. And sure enough, her next canter was gorgeous. She goes, that worked. I'm like, right?
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. It's amazing. And again, going back to what you teach about visualizing and, thinking about visualizing, talking about how we want it to go, not how we don't want it to go. We've all seen horse riders that have basically taught their horses to spook at certain things because they've had in their head, the wheelbarrow is going to be a problem.
Yeah, and
or whatever it is.
As soon as those thoughts come in, then the body tenses and the horse goes, what's wrong?
Exactly.
So it's like the self-fulfilling prophecy. So we want to stop that immediately. So it's so good. So when you're riding and when you're working with the app, ask yourself, what am I thinking about as I'm listening to these instructions? Do I feel like I'm creating a good picture and really setting myself up for success and believing in myself and my horse? Or am I doubting, going, oh no, I don't want to do that movement in that corner. That might not work out. So really start to assess all of your thoughts as you're going through it. So I think that's really valuable to consider, especially when you're riding on your own and going through those lessons.
Yeah, and I think that's a good question to ask yourself. Do I really not want to do that corner because I created something in that corner? Or do I just need to change my thoughts and get going? Yeah. So there is the flip side. There's giving yourself grace and then recognizing who's creating the energy there.
Absolutely. And then sometimes there really is a problem in that corner and your horse knows it. So you can just ride a different space and then maybe do some in-hand work in that corner and do some positive reinforcement and let them know that's a safe, magical place instead,
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So good. Okay, I'd love to know, what are your 3 favorite lessons in your app?
Oh my gosh. There's so many good ones. One of my favorite lessons is one where we make it diagonal, we change it to leg yield, diagonal, change it to leg yield. That one is just really awesome for getting the horse on the aids, getting him into the contact, really nice feeling in the contact. And then you're set up to do something at the finish, like add a circle of canter. That's definitely one of my favorites. Yeah, of course, you have a couple of amazing lessons on there that I get lots of great feedback from.
Oh, thank you. So cool.
The meditations and then the one where we're visualizing more, those are really great. Yeah, it's hard to pick. I was just going through and picking out exercises for a challenge too, and I originally had planned to have like 5, and it ended up as 15 because I could not whittle it down.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Tell us about your challenge.
Yeah, so the challenge is all about straightness, and which involves suppleness as well.
Right.
And so day 1, we're going to do some exercises to specifically decide where your horse is stiff and where they're hollow, so we can identify those spots, because you'd be really amazed what you can actually assess on your own if you know what you're looking for. So I'm going to teach everybody how to make those assessments. And then from there, the rest of the day is we're going to pick some exercises to ride. They're all in the app, so you get to have the full app experience of what it feels like to go and put your earbuds on and or your speaker, however it works for you, and ride with the lessons. And then at the end, we'll reassess and see where you ended up. So in my experience teaching clients, once we've identified these things and we know the right exercises to do and the right ways to ride them, we can actually make a pretty good quick win in one lesson, that just by riding it differently. Of course, like the bigger win will come over time because it takes time to deal with a stiffness and a strength issue. But that's my hope, that everybody can kind of come out of it with a better understanding of how the stiff and hollow side works, and that just having that understanding will really help lay the foundation for the rest of their ride. I knew that as a rider, when I finally understood this myself, it was game changing. It changed literally everything I do for the rest of my life in my dressage riding.
Yeah, it's so valuable, because once your horse is straight, then you have all this energy you can play with.
That's right. Yeah.
They're not leaking. I have a pony that likes to leak out the right shoulder quite often.
Yeah, yes. And it really opens doors. And if people are familiar with the dressage training scale, you've got straightness and then you've got collection. So straightness is really like the gateway to getting better balance and getting collection, which is a lot more fun to ride than having a horse plowing around on the forehand and crooked, and it makes a much better ride for everybody and keeps your horse sounder.
Yes.
You don't want to have your horse going around crooked and developing compensation patterns and issues.
Yeah, and you create better longevity for them, because we want them to live forever. So, yeah.
Right, exactly. And that's why it's going to be a great challenge for everybody, not just people that specifically want to ride dressage, but even if you're a trail rider, pleasure rider in your backyard, like these are things that you can work on that will definitely keep your horse happier longer.
Yeah, so any tack would work, or bareback, right?
Anything, that's right. And even my live in-person clinics, I'm like, I don't care what tack you ride, as long as it fits and your horse is comfortable.
Yes. So good. I love that.
Yeah.
And then how can people join that challenge?
So the best way right now would be to jump into my group, Open Minds Dressage, and stay in the loop. And I'm going to be announcing the sign-ups and the dates coming up pretty soon.
Awesome. And I'll be sure to share the link to that group in the show notes for everyone.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm excited. I'll definitely join that. So, yeah.
I'm excited too.
It's nice to have structure and have other people give you ideas, because I'm the one always coming up with ideas, so it's fun to have extra help all the time.
Yeah. It is. I gotta say, even as a rider and a trainer, sometimes it's nice to just feel like someone hold my hand through this ride, Yeah. Jesus, take the wheel and show me where to go and what to do. Because for whatever reason, I might be a little mentally spent. I just need to ride and have someone direct me and kind of just tune into the ride and not be worrying about, what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, it's a nice feeling. I remember that as a child all the time,
Yeah.
And then as I got older, I was like, I just need to put on my detective hat now and sort this out, you know. And then you just try little things and you keep experimenting until you get in the groove. But yeah, it is so nice. I remember the few lessons I had with you were really fun. So I want to get back to that. I've been riding Pepper now. I've gotten to a full 15 minutes before he says we've run out of meter money. So I want to get to at least 30 before I book a session with you. So we go slowly but surely because we've been building up our endurance because we really didn't do much in the summer. It's just too hot.
Yeah,
And I know. I don't think it's fair to make him sweat. I always think of it as if the horse is wearing a sweater. You know, that's the way I look at it. And like, if I'm okay but still a little warm, he's going to be way warmer. So I'm very careful about that sort of thing. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't gotten to ride my own horse a lot this summer for the same reasons. By the time we get up and start pretty early to avoid the heat. And by the time I've kind of taken care of my client horses, my poor horse is like...
You just give him treats, say I love you, and scratch them, and
yeah. He didn't mind too much.
No, they don't mind. They're pretty cool about it.
Yeah.
So, Crystal, what do you think holds riders back from being their most confident selves?
I think part of it's poor experience.
Yeah.
Poor experience or lack of experience, and poor experiences could be often you see outside influences, outside, trainers that aren't the most compassionate and sympathetic, your fellow boarders that are all watching you ride at the rail and tell, oh, you should do this and you should do that. And I mean, the horse world, it's full of it. Everybody's an expert and everybody has an opinion. 10 different people, 10 different opinions. And you start listening to that may not have the full story or don't operate the same way as you do or aren't familiar with your horse, and that can kind of really create some problems. So poor experience, lack of experience, and not slowing down enough.
Yeah, and not having that self-esteem or self-belief to quiet out those voices out there. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, to tell them to back off, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. my favorite, I heard Marissa Pure, who created the RTT, Rapid Transformational Therapy, hypnotherapy that I do. She said the best thing, she would say, thank you for that feedback. And then she would just do whatever she wanted. Because you're acknowledging that they said something, but they can't say anything else after that.
Right.
So I think that's a brilliant way to do it. I also do some energetic stuff where I send them love, or I create a bubble around myself and my horse, or the whole property, depending on where we are. And then if any of that energy wants to come, I think of it like a bug zapper, and they get zapped because that is not allowed here.
Yeah, that's right.
Or you can just say out loud, only love is allowed here.
Yeah, there's lots of different things you can say, but it's good to have something in your back pocket.
Totally. But yeah, thank you for your feedback. It's perfect. And then you just keep going.
Yeah. Thanks for your feedback. Oh, I'm working with a trainer. Thanks for your feedback.
Yeah. Or if they're being particularly rude, you can say, can you say that again? And just challenge them a little and say, that's all right. I'm going to do my thing. Totally. So, this is excellent to remind people to just keep trusting their intuition and finding the sympathetic trainers that really will help them along the way. I'm just so glad that you exist and you created all these fun things for people around the world. It's awesome. Crystal, do you have any success stories or testimonials that you want to share real quick about the app?
I do have a couple. I have one person, actually, she's in Australia, and she's also a professional trainer, and she had mentioned to me how her horse was moving so much more freer since she had been using exercises from the app. And then I did have another gal who when she reached out to me via email after she had looked at some of my things and she signed up, and I'm like, you are exactly who I made this for. She's out in a rural area, miles and miles from any help or anybody. You know, all of her help is really going to come virtually, or it's going to be a huge trailer ride to go and do. And she's like, I'm so glad that this exists because, and she wasn't even at the point of riding yet. So that's another thing. You can also listen to the exercises, and you don't even have to be riding. You could listen to them wherever. So she was getting ready to ride and listening to them, and she was just very thankful to have access to that kind of help.
That's wonderful. I love that so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she had some wild stories.
What do you wish every rider would believe about themselves?
Oh, so there's a couple things, but the one thing that was coming to me this morning was that there seems to be this belief, especially in the dressage community, that a horse not living up to their potential is being wasted. And for some reason, they feel like the horse would feel bad or sad that they're not realizing their potential, which I feel is just, I don't know. I've never known any horse to like sit in the field and go, oh, dang, I'm only doing first level because of my stupid rider, and I really could be a Grand Prix horse. You know, I don't think it works like that, you know. And then you see people selling their partners because they think they're not a good enough rider for their horse to reach their potential. And I'm like, I guarantee you no horse ever felt that they were being wasted. Like, that is not what they want. They want all of the things, friends, carrots, snuggles, to have a good time and feel safe with you.
Yes.
So that's really what we should be focusing on, not is the horse realizing their full dressage potential. I just think that's crazy.
Yeah, I totally agree. I've seen that before, and I just kind of shake my head. And more of it so where the rider just doesn't feel good enough for their horse. Whether they think that the horse has potential to do more or not, they just literally don't feel good enough. And that makes me so sad. But that's where I step in and say, okay, we can actually rewire your mind in the hypnotherapy to fix that and actually start to feel better and better about your rides. And then you and your horse can have fun together, and you can say, actually, we are good enough, and we're an amazing team, and we can do fun things. It doesn't have to be Grand Prix, you know.
Right, exactly. And that's where you go, we'll do the things that you are good at.
Yeah, exactly.
And that bring you both joy. Go for a hack and a trail ride if that's what brings you joy. Do not sign up for the $600 clinic that's just going to tear you down, or the show that you're going to come back from feeling worse than when you left. Like, that's silly.
Yeah, it's good to stretch your comfort zone, but I'm always of the mind that you should go somewhere where you felt like you've already done it at home successfully, so you're not in over your head at a level at the show where you're stretching too much, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I see that, and it makes me sad. Now, there's a difference between I'm not good enough for my horse feeling like that, or going, this is not the time in my life where I'm able to give the horse the kind of attention that he needs.
Right.
That's different.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, life happens, and you want what's best for the horse. But if it's simply a mental thing that can be shifted, then I say work on it and enjoy your horse as much as you can.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that over the weekend you were spending quite a lot of time judging. I'm really curious, like, what were some of the highlights? What gave you hope for the future in the dressage world?
Well, I will tell you why I enjoy judging. And so just to back up, I'm not a licensed judge. I'm a USDF L graduate, which means that I'm qualified to judge schooling shows. Most of what you see are schooling shows are intro level, training level, a few first level, second, and then some other ones sprinkled in there. But a majority of it is intro and training level. And these are our grassroots riders, a lot of kids, a lot of adult amateurs. And I always say I look at judging as speed dating.
Oh, yes.
Right? So if you're unfamiliar with how a dressage test works, you have a test, there's a movement, directive ideas, so what the judge is looking for, and then a box for a score for every single movement. And then as judges, we're trained on what we should be looking for so that it's consistent from one judge to another. We have a really good judges training program for dressage in the US, which is really great. It's not subjective. It always drives me crazy, like some of these under saddle classes, and that they just pick 1, 2, 3, 4. I hate when people ask me to judge that. I'm like, I can't. I need movements and boxes and scores. So anyway, and you get a score for each movement, and you get comments. So the comments for me is where like the speed dating comes in. So the challenge for me is, what can I say in just a few words so that you know how you're going to go home and improve this. And then at the end of the test, I get a couple more sentences to give kind of an overall feeling and overall overview of the test. So I really love doing that. And I don't even mind watching like 100 intro rides or 100 training level rides. I know some people get kind of bored with it, but the whole, you got to be fast because the next movement's coming. So you got to make your quick comment and then move on to the next box and make the next comment. So yeah, I really enjoy doing that and giving the comments and trying to be creative with my comments so I can be helpful. Yeah.
Fantastic. And were the riders overall in a good place, you think?
Yeah. I always say it's a good day. Nobody fell off.
Okay. Okay.
Like if all the horses stay in the arena, it's a good day. And we did have one little pony that decided to make an exit and go back to his friends. And so that's always kind of hard when that happens, because as the trainer in me is like, oh my gosh, we're not going to go put him back in his stall. I love when I have space and schedule that I can at least get them back in the ring. Rules are they have to be eliminated, but at least get the horse in the ring and make a graceful exit whenever possible. So, and that stuff does happen. And
sure.
So, yes, and I love when I'm able to give good scores. That's what I'm always like looking for a way, and most judges are like this. So anybody who's listening and that's ever been judged, I want you to know judges are looking for ways to get scores, not bad scores, but they have to say what they see in the test. So if we can squeak out a good score for you, we definitely will try.
Good. So it sounds like the impression is that there's a lot of hope for the future with these young riders and beginner riders, right?
We've got some great groups locally, some great barns that bring their young riders to the show, and that they're really a reflection of their trainers who are always there with a smile, happy to help them pitch in, and they do a really great job.
That's awesome. I love hearing that. Yeah, we need more stories like that in the horse world. So,
oh my gosh.
Yes.
Yeah, we definitely do. Yeah.
Is there anything else that I haven't asked you that you wanted to share?
I think what I haven't talked about yet is when we talk about confidence, and I think a lot of confidence comes from having an appropriate horse for your skills and abilities and what you want to do. And hopefully when you go shopping, you're able to find that. That's the ultimate goal. But sometimes you get the horse home and you find out it wasn't exactly what you thought it was for different reasons. Hopefully the horse wasn't misrepresented, but it does happen. And then there's also a transition period where you might be taking a horse from a very different environment, and that's one thing that I've learned is I used to think the horse ought to be able to come to the new barn and like get right to work, and I don't do that anymore. I definitely give the horse like a settling in period, and you notice it or where I first started noticing it, was even like the loading up to go and the new trailer to go. And when the new owner takes the lead rope to try to load the horse in the new trailer, and the horse is like, I don't know who you are and where we're going and what we're doing, and this is really weird, and just like, think about that poor horse. So sometimes I'll actually have the old owner load the horse because they already trust that person. And then get there and get to know each other. There's really no rush, which is kind of going off on a different point. But when we don't find the appropriate horse for whatever reason, that we can either just take it slow and get the right kind of help. And
Yeah, it's so important. And that downtime is really valuable, because then I know for me, when we got Pepper, it was the week of lockdown in 2020. So I was like, okay, I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going to hang out and get to know this pony. And I literally would just really let him show me what he liked to do. And I didn't rush him in anything. And that was just such a really cool experience. I'd never actually done that before. All the horses I've had, very similar. You know, I'd give them a couple of days, but then I'm like, okay, let's get to work. Let's, you know, shape your body and get you all feeling great. But, you know, with Pepper and I, we've got this relationship where it's like, we're simpatico now because I gave him that time, and it built our confidence together. And that was just such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and it's really important, too, that it's a new relationship. And how you start that relationship is really going to carry forward as you go. So if you start it as, you know, sympathetic and listening to the horse and paying attention to all of the horse's signals, it's going to take you a long way. Versus if you kind of start it from the other end and kind of being a taskmaster about things, and we're going to do this and you need to do that, and I need to be able to do all these things to you even though you don't know me, that's what's going to carry forward. And you have to work really hard to backtrack and undo those things later on.
Yeah, but it is possible. You can always just say, I'm putting the pause button on this now.
It's totally possible.
I'm sorry for the way things started. Let's start over, you know.
Yeah. And that's why one reason why horses are so amazing is how forgiving that they are.
Oh, yeah. So forgiving and so willing. It's amazing. Every day I think, it's amazing they let us sit on them.
Oh my God, I have the same thought all the time. I'm like, really, this goes against like all nature to let us sit on them.
It's the coolest feeling to have that trust and that gift. So, yeah.
Yes.
All right, so Crystal, we're going to put the group link in as well as your Dressage to Go app in. Is there any other way you'd like people to get in touch with you?
Yeah, the group is a great spot. They can always reach out to me on a DM. I have a page on Facebook for Dressage to Go, and Instagram. I'm not as good at looking at the Instagram, but I'm trying to be better. But I probably spend a little more time on Facebook.
Cool, that's good to know. And then, okay, finally, just for fun, if you were a horse, how would you describe yourself?
So, I don't know how this happened, but I somehow ended up with a program full of Arabians this year. And it's kind of funny because I grew up riding Arabians on trail. I worked, and this is way back in my youth, I worked for a trainer that trained Arabians for a couple different things, and reiners and things, more of a Western thing. And we've always kind of had them around in the background, been familiar with them. And then all of a sudden, like, I went and bought one myself, and then and another client who had already had some, and then I got another client that just bought one. Anyway, that all kind of goes to say, like, I love their sense of adventure that they have, and they're like just kind of happy to go to work, but they're also very fluid and adaptable. They just have a great energy about them. So I think I'm kind of identifying with that right now.
I love that. And they're also super smart.
Oh my gosh, they're so smart. And I think where Arabians get a bad rap with some people, you kind of find people, a lot of love him or hate him, but I think the people that aren't into him, it's because those horses have really outsmarted them.
I can totally see that. Yeah. I love that you're an Arabian. That's fantastic.
I don't know.
That was my heart horse, little Biffy. He was a Polish Arabian. He was phenomenal. Oh my gosh. But yeah, they're the best. I'd love to get one day.
And they're great at so many different things. Like, they don't want to be put in a box. They can do all the things. I've got one client that we do dressage, she goes on the trail, and then she takes him to sortings. She takes him and does cow sortings and stuff. It's just, which is so good for the horse anyway, but they're just awesome. It's very versatile and game for lots of things.
Oh yeah, I mean, Biffy loved Western pleasure, so I learned Western pleasure to do it with him, and I did a whole show series with him, and then later in the day they had the English classes, so he humored me and did those too, even though he'd much rather be in the Western tack. It was so funny, but it's amazing all the things they can do. But he drew the line at cross-country jumping. He was fine with jumping if he could see the fencing around him, because he just got so anxious when there was no fencing and no boundaries, and he literally threw a tantrum when we went schooling at a cross-country place.
No fences, no boundaries, and where's the herd? It'd be interesting. Did you ever take him hunting or a hunter pace where you're with another horse?
We did, actually. My students did, and that was phenomenal. He got really quick, and she was surprised because usually he was a little lazy in the arena. And so they ended up winning because the other client was riding a thoroughbred, so the two of them were just flying along.
So was he happier than being with another horse versus being by himself?
Absolutely, yeah, that made all the difference. Helped. And it was a horse that he knew from the house, so it was great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh my gosh. Well, this was so much fun, Crystal. It went too fast. Is there anything else you want to share, or does that feel good to you?
That feels great.
Okay, thank you again for being here. And everyone, please check out the Dressage to Go app. You won't be disappointed. There's even a trial. So give it a go. And thank you again for being here.
Thank you. We always have the best conversations.
I agree. They're really fun. All right, everyone. So remember to lead with kindness for yourself and for your horse. Thanks so much for listening. And may the horse be with you always.